Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm going to try to cover some of the really important fundamentals here, as I always do. I have to click around here, hold on. And just so important to understand just a few key points about this system. So always in this video, always in these free training videos, which I'm posting over at YouTube at my channel there is Barefoot Medicine Training. If you'll do me the pleasure of subscribing, you'll get all the videos. You'll get a notice when the new video's out. But you'll see there's also, I'm dating them, so there's also a progression. Okay. The hardest thing about starting with the pivot protocol is that the concepts themselves are very strange. But I teach this, I've taught this to 6- and 7-year-old children. And they get it. And they get it because there is a logic to it. It's like if you think of your organs in this manner and then you logically test what I'm telling you, this is how your digestive organs actually work, and you try certain foods and then you see it trigger certain things, and some of the reactions will be unique to you, but there are also general principles about how your organs really truly function. So that's pretty good news because it's very comforting to know that. So right away, I'm going to tackle this food combining thing. Okay, so, understanding how these foods affect you personally may take a little testing, but by and large, you're going to know based on what I'm telling you, like, oh yeah, that is what's happening to me. That's the kind of aha moment that we want. And once you understand the principles of why this is happening, why does this food trigger this symptom? Step one, if you don't have your material, this is where it really helps to have some of the material. But so that you get something out of this, even if you're not a student and a customer, don't worry. I'm still trying to teach this from the point of view where you really understand the pivot protocol. So as always, I'll just explain, like your stomach in this model of holistic medicine, your stomach's like a pot, and you put food in the pot, and then the fire under the pot is your digestive fire. Now that fire has to cook whatever's in the pot. You can put stuff in the pot that's very hard to cook, metaphorically, and break down, we would say, and extract nutrients from it. That's what your digestive fire is supposed to do. Or you could just have very weak digestive fire, or both. For most people, it's partly ignorance, and it's partly the damage has already been done. And especially if you're past a certain age, chances are the damage has been done. Okay? If you're over 35, this digestive fire is already had its best days, okay, and then everything comes about being very protective and conservative of it, and that's what I'm teaching you in the actual material. So putting food in the pot, your digestive fire does or doesn't break it down, and then the stomach puts the food kicks the food out of the pot into the intestines, and from there all kinds of things can happen, okay. The liver factors into all of this. Our 4 main organs are the liver, the stomach, the spleen, and the intestines. And the liver factors into all of this, doesn't it? Because the liver is, in effect, the thermostat for your metabolism. When your metabolism's running like holy hell, right, your thermostat is way up and you're getting a lot of heat in your body. That's your metabolic activity, okay? So with that base, in other words, when things aren't going well for you and your body's running and running and running itself ragged, i.e. stress, right, which comes in many forms. It comes as an emotional problem, like something's not going well in your life, or you got to get the kids to school, you got to get your ass to work, you got to push, push, push. That's stress as well. That means your body has to respond to that stimulus. Okay? And when your liver gets overheated, it triggers a chain reaction that affects the other 3 organs. So it doesn't matter where your problem started. Maybe you took antibiotics and it destroyed your intestines. Well then, now you have all kinds of growth going on in there, and now, right now, you're eating food that your body can't, your digestive fire isn't able to deal with. Now your liver's heating up, now you're eating more food, now you're building up more sludge in your intestines. Over and over and over, and it just goes round and round until you break the cycle. So basically, step 1, figure out what your specific symptoms are. Start to learn what organ is causing that exact presentation. Nobody has just reflux. If you have reflux, you're going to have several other things going on simultaneously. Okay, so that's important to know and to really deal with in a step-by-step manner. But let's presume that you've done that. You can do that. That's actually in the master class that I'm really teaching you that. Remember, the phase 1 material, for those of you who don't know, is really about what not to do. If you're doing certain things because you've talked to health gurus and you're reading material online, or your doctor, in some cases, God help you if you're following your doctor's advice on something like reflux, because they just don't know. They're just not taught about this. This is not part of the Western medical, modern medical miracle that is modern medicine. Modern medicine's great at other things, but it's not good at this. So with that as a preamble, okay, now let's talk about specific foods. I got a question here. I don't remember who sent this. What about kefir? It's a type of yogurt. I have my thoughts on yogurt in phase 1. The main thing to understand is if you are taking something for bacterial purposes, to put acidophilus, a lot of people are aware, is in a lot of yogurt cultures. Most of that is killed. It is pasteurized. When they pasteurize it, they flash heat it and kill all the bacteria in it. That's why it can stay on the shelf for so long. When you make your own probiotic foods, which I teach you how to do in the master class bonus material, I teach you how to make 2 really key probiotic foods that are really, it's very easy to make them. It takes like 10 minutes a month to make this and keep it going. Well, then you have a source of probiotics. So my basic hit is don't buy kefir, don't buy yogurt, don't buy anything at the store, because number one, you have no idea what you're getting. And I don't care what anybody says about it. It's like, but if you make it yourself and it takes 10 minutes and you know exactly what's in it and you have control over it, doesn't that make better sense? Because then you know what kind of reaction you're going to get. So kefir is no different. It's actually a kind of yogurt kind of thing that's made from grains. And you ferment the grains, and then this culture basically ferments, and you can add milk and things like this, and it's actually quite pleasant. I like the taste of it, but I make it myself. When I have it, I make it myself. I don't do a lot of dairy, but when I do, right, I enjoy that. And the same with yogurt, right? If I have yogurt, it's because I made it myself. It's very easy to do, but you have to start with a culture, and you have to start with a culture of for kefir as well. Okay, so you have to have a certain culture to get it started. If you want to do that, be my guest, right? I don't recommend buying it. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay, all products with dairy cause dampness. If you don't know what dampness is, you should read my daily email. And also, right, I explain this in pretty good detail in phase 1 and the master class, talking about what is this concept of dampness, why does it matter, how does it build up in your body, why is it causing trouble for you, and what do you do about it, right, is the other thing. I have multiple steps for dealing with dampness. We'll continue to talk about them. Talking about caffeine, both in kombucha and green tea. So does the caffeine in kombucha cause problems for you? When you put basically kombucha is made with black tea, so there's a lot of caffeine. When you put the black tea into the culture to make your kombucha ferment, by the way, it transforms a lot of the chemistry of the black tea. So if you allow it to ferment properly, you're not getting a ton of caffeine. You may get a small kick from the kombucha, but you're getting so many beneficial things. A small amount of caffeine is not a big deal, right? It's, you know, people drinking 5 cups of coffee a day when it becomes a really big deal. Caffeine is, in biochemical terms, no different than basically methamphetamines. So if you want to speed your body up, caffeine's a great way to do it, or methamphetamine's a pretty effective way to make your body run too hot, too fast. And you pay for that at the end. Like, obviously, if you turn the fan on and then you added electricity to the fan, so it's going way faster than it's supposed to go, the motor runs out much faster that way. Well, your body is also under a similar kind of condition where the harder you push by using stimulants, the faster you burn up your good, healthy fluids and tissue, and the faster you age the body. That's why stress is so very difficult on your aging process. You're burning up your resources from inside. Nuts. I talk about nuts in part of the program. I can't remember if it's phase 1 or the master class. Are nuts a good source of protein? Is cheese a good source of protein? Look, there are better sources of protein than both of these. And the reason is because when you put a nut into the pot of the stomach, it is bloody hard for your digestive fire to break down. Why? Because nature designed what's in a nut, right? If it's an almond, there's an almond tree in there. And so to get animals to eat the seed of a plant and then, right? Crap it out somewhere else so that you grow a new tree, which is basically how these things are designed. Yeah, there's a lot of nutrition in there, but you can't get to it because your digestive fire, especially if you have reflux and your digestion's been damaged, you're not going to pull a lot of nutrients out of that. So you get this idea, this concept, you have a food that's super high in nutrition, it has a lot of gross profit, but the amount of effort it takes to get that, this is your effort over here, and it takes this much effort to get it, the net profit goes down. You don't get a lot of profit if your digestion is damaged. Okay, I understand some people can eat nuts, good for them, right? My wife's digestive system is like a cast iron pot. I mean, it's unbelievable. She can absolutely eat anything. It doesn't affect her, and she's still fit and thin and all the rest. And so it's like, well, I was like that too when I was 18. So God bless. My wife's not 18, by the way. But, I mean, she has very strong digestion, and she's very, very fortunate at this time in her life that she's gotten into the age that she's at, where she doesn't really need to worry too much. Her digestion can handle tons and tons of stuff. So nuts, not necessarily your best bet, to be honest. If you can handle them, eat them, right? If you're getting digestive symptoms, what they are is very irritating, especially if you have inflammatory bowel kind of situation. So here's a great case study example of if you're eating certain foods, everybody's focused on the food. Everybody wants to know. People write in and they go, what food can I eat? Is it okay to eat nuts and cheese or this or that or XYZ? And the correct question is, what are your symptoms when you eat that food? That's my question back to you. And it's like, what are your symptoms even before you eat that? Because you know if your digestive fire is damaged, you know that eating something like nuts and cheese is not a good idea. You know it without trying it. There's some argument that says you should try it for yourself to see what symptoms it kicks off. But the idea that you can only get protein and things like this from nuts or cheese or these really, really, really difficult to digest foods that cause all kinds of difficulty to your digestive system is a bad idea, right? The idea, of course, is that you want to take pressure off your system. A lot of you have written in asking about the Spartan Guide to Food Combining. I'm sharing that with you here little by little, but just understand, I coined that because, right, in Sparta, in ancient Greece, I mean, the idea was that the warriors there, they could live on nothing. And, I mean, they could wolf down raw eggs and things like this to keep themselves going. And, I mean, this was encouraged from the time these men were young boys to be able to just absolutely specimens, right, and in that time, obviously, they had a reason to train in that way to protect their people and stay alive. But look, eating simply when you're sick makes a ton of sense. So do you have to follow the Spartan Food Combining Guide? No, you don't have to. I'm recommending that the sicker you are, the worse your symptoms, the more severe, and I'm going to talk about some people who have written in who are way, 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 way behind the 8 ball and, you know, really desperate. And I was there too. And if you are, then you need to be very, very honest with yourself about, you know, what foods you're combining with what. Because the more stuff you put into this pot, the harder it is for the digestive fire to sort it out. This goes here, separate this, bland and boring. Okay, that's the idea. Until your body starts to recover, then you can start to change the way you eat a little bit. But the simpler, the better while you're in the recovery phase. Okay, green tea, caffeine, no caffeine. Don't worry about caffeine in green tea. It's like a quarter of what's in coffee anyway. So you don't have to decaffeinate your green tea. When you get good tea, and I give you a source to do that, some folks out in San Francisco that I've known for years, and they just have the best tea importing business from China. And they really do have just the top quality tea of any place I've been, and I've looked for tea in a lot of places in the world. So that's in the resource guide in the masterclass. For those of you who have it, check it out. Basically, if you want to get caffeine out of your tea, put hot water on it once, count to 10, rinse it, swish it around a little, and then dump the water out. The Chinese are very smart. They always rinse their tea. For the first pour, you always rinse the tea. You can keep adding water to it. I have a small handful of tea leaves, and I put it in a cup, and I put about 5 cups of water. I keep pouring water on it for about 3 or 4 hours in the morning. So I have about 3 or 4 cups of tea, but it's not new tea leaves every time. Okay, so it's actually quite a pleasant way to do it. Okay, a gentleman here named Bill. just get into, to wrap this video up, you know, several people have really talked about how desperate they are and how bad things are. And I have a closing comment. I'll close with a comment about what to do when you're really, truly desperate. This gentleman's been on PPIs for years, and, you know, like a lot of people, you can start out taking these meds, and maybe they do you some good and maybe they don't, but eventually they stop working. And I'm talking about some other digestive issues here that have been diagnosed, and you know, just asking, like, it's unbearable right now. You know, will I survive this kind of thing, and how the hell do I get through this and get off this medication? My comment to Bill, if you're watching, and to everybody, right, when your back is to the wall with something like digestive illness, and I mean, I get it, if you're watching this video, chances are your back is to the wall, and you've already been through the ringer, you've been to the doctor, you've had multiple prescriptions, maybe also you have diagnosis, just like here, of, you know, other things going on. I know it's rough, okay? The best advice I can give you is, number one, just understand everything you've been told about the American diet, and when you're really busted, when I don't want to read everything that he sent me here, because it's really quite grave and very serious, and I know that's the same for a lot of you. And when your daily kind of experience of eating food is absolutely miserable and unbearable, you gotta start with a real humble kind of, okay, I am going to learn something new. I am going to take everything that I think I know about diet and get rid of it. Because it's a hindrance to trying to learn how to fix this. A lot of people just sort of wandering around blindfolded, hoping that, you know, something they discovered. This system, and why I do these videos, these free videos, is to really give you the logic so that you can make sense of this yourself. And once you test a few of the things that I'm telling you about, and you find out, wow, that actually does work, that is what is happening, this is how the digestive system really works, and this is what this guy Christian is telling me is actually the truth. My digestion does operate according to, you know, the kind of metaphors and principles that I'm teaching you about these four main organs. And, you know, the symptoms that he said I was going to get are the symptoms that I'm getting from, you know, eating this, that, or the other food. You get a lot of positive emotion to get yourself going and move, like pull yourself out of the pit, as it were. So, and the second thing is, you know, well, let me go on, because there's another case here I just want to address as well. People desperate sufferers. 48-year-old, what I thought was stomach reflux, sounds like it's liver. What I thought was a stomach problem, but may turn out to be a liver reflux issue. That's the most common one, Adam. Every winter I suffer from gastric distress. It's smelly and makes me uncomfortable. Yeah, anytime. Okay, and I go into this in real detail, how you tell the difference. In the masterclass, I tell you, here's how you tell the difference on what's causing your smelly gas. Okay, if it's basically, if you're getting gas and it's this way, this is the cause. If it's this way, this is the cause. It's a little more than I can go into here, but basically just understand any kind of bloating and gas, whether it has a bad odor or not, always involves intestinal bacterial imbalance, what is called dysbiosis, meaning that your bacteria is completely out of whack. Almost everybody in modern culture has had some antibiotic exposure. Okay, I'm not one of these people who says it's always bad to have antibiotics. There is a time for them. Okay, it's best if you're at death's door when you finally take them, because that's really how they work best. You want your body to fight stuff off. You want your body to do it. We've all been given antibiotics for stuff that we did not need antibiotics for, or too much, too often. And so when you destroy, and that's not the only thing that breaks down your intestinal bacteria, but when you get an imbalance in your intestinal bacteria, you have work to do. That's why I put the bonus videos together on how to get good probiotic action back into your intestines. It will take care of that problem. But the other thing is, too, for a lot of people, it's just food has to move. And if food is not moving or waste is building up in your colon, you're going to have bloating and gas. I mean, that's exactly what that means. Now, obviously, I go into that in real detail. That has to do with especially this damp reflux, because most people with, you know, Crohn's disease, IBS, gluten intolerance, allergic kind of reactions, food sensitivities, autoimmune kind of situation, inflammatory bowel situation, you're going to have bloating and gas. There's just no getting around it, okay? And it has to do with actually the structure of your intestines has been damaged for most people. That's exactly what's going on. Asking here about allergies. Yeah, that's an autoimmune condition is an allergy. An allergy means you have an autoimmune situation. Woman I've been communicating with about her, she has burning in her chest, burning sensation, like, oh, my lungs are on fire. I feel like my lungs are hot and itchy. Yeah, that's rough, no doubt about it. And this is really where I want to close, really close this out here, and just make this comment. Again, if you're desperate, if you're watching this and you're desperate because your digestive symptoms are seriously, seriously wrecking your life, and like, gee, I don't know if I can get through another day of this, and like, I'm reading a lot of emails from people like that. By the way, I was there too, okay, about 15 years ago now, but I mean, it was bad. I know exactly what you're going through, and what you do to get out of it is two things. You do the right thing, you study, you learn, you figure out what you need to do, and you discipline yourself to execute it. You don't cheat, like, oh, I'll just have one cookie. No, 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 no. You don't dig the hole any deeper, okay, as the old proverb says. When you notice that you're in a pit, the first thing you do is you stop digging. So that's why I did the phase 1 material the way I did. Stop digging the hole any deeper. Have confidence that you can learn and figure this out. And the other thing, and this is kind of a dark thought, but it's very necessary. I don't mean it this way, and I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's like, because I've gotten several emails from this particular student, and I get it. It's like, it's really terrible what she's going through. And for a lot of you, it's really terrible. There's just no doubt about it. But just take a moment to appreciate it. Like, you are going to die someday. And so it's like, once you kind of make peace with that, and I know it's not easy to make peace with your own death, but it's like, you have nothing to lose but to go for it. It's, if you're really suffering and nothing else has worked, what are you going to do if you can't go back to the doctor, if you can't do anything that you've already tried and nothing has worked? Really dig in, learn the principles that I'm teaching you. I've taught a lot of people to pull themselves out of digestive illness. So trust that I know what I'm talking about. I don't think you're going to find anything like the Pivot Protocol anywhere else. I know it, in fact, because of what I went through and because I know where this came from. There's just nobody else talking about this. Certainly not in this format where you can get access to it so easily. Dig in, have faith, and trust that I know what I'm teaching you, and do the consistent right thing. You may not see results quickly. I didn't, okay? When I was learning from my mentor, I didn't see results immediately. It took a lot of struggle. I had very good days, and then I would backslide, and like, oh, what happened, right? I had to work this out for myself. Hopefully I'm saving you a lot of that. And, you know, when I turned it around, it seemed like, oh my God, you know, if you're suffering for years, it just feels like, oh, you know, now everything's getting better so quick. You want to have that moment. You want to have the moment where you really feel like, I've done it, I've beaten this because I understand what's going on, and it's no longer a mystery why I'm having these symptoms and why I'm suffering. And so you basically, right, you no longer are doing that to yourself, and you know how to build your organs back up. Okay, but recognize is like, you have no time to waste and you have nothing to lose. And when it looks like I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I mean, several people have written in, I don't even know if I'm going to survive this or not. I get it, but your job is to like set that aside and understand, and this is my last thought for you. When you're sick, when you're really beat down, the more you worry about your health, the more you upset yourself, the more heat your liver is creating. Okay? That kind of worry and stress and that deep sense of, you know, desperation, that's all creating heat in your liver. So when you're worried and you're feeling heat in your chest, the first thing you do is get a hold of yourself. I know it's not easy. I get it. But if your only option is to get a hold of yourself, get busy, force yourself, take 5 minutes, go for a walk, meditate for 10 minutes in the morning, like today is going to be a good day. Even if my symptoms flare up, I'm not going to react to it and add to my misery and add to my physical discomfort, because that's exactly what you're having. I know this is hard to do because I was my own worst enemy for years too. When I was studying and when I was sick and until I really figured out, like, yeah, I need to stop worrying in this way. I'm not saying also, and this was my advice to this student, when it's time to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Okay, I am not offering medical advice to take the place of going to your actual primary care MD physician. If you're in serious trouble, you get your ass to the doctor. Obviously, that's the smart thing to do. But as she told me, you know, I've had this test, I've had that test, they've checked this out. Apparently, there's nothing wrong with me. Well, that can be pretty upsetting because you feel like, hey, doc, there's definitely something wrong with me. But once you know the best that Western modern medicine can tell you, and they've given you a clean bill, like, no, I know you're miserable, and we can do this, and we can give you steroids, and we can try to help you, but there's nothing organically wrong. You don't have, you know, pleurisy, you don't have a tumor, you don't have something that's causing this. Then you have to step back and logically conclude, like, I am not going to cause this feeling to flare up in me again today. And it's the hardest thing to do, but it has to be done. Because if you're adding to your misery by making yourself upset and adding heat to your liver and causing more symptoms, it just makes your job that much harder, okay? So that's a little bit of tough love, but you can do it. I'm going to talk next time about some other things here, a couple things about hiatal hernia and all the rest. But I want to keep these videos as short as possible. I hate going over 20 minutes, but I'll get better at that. So thank you very much, and keep sending me your questions, guys. Thanks very much, and I'll be back to talk to you in the next one.